As a survival horror fan, Cronos The New Dawn might be one of, if not my favorite game of the year. This game does everything right in its respected genre, especially in its gameplay and resource economy. But above that, it somehow sets itself apart from other survival horror games such as Resident Evil and Dead Space. And that just cannot be ignored. So, in this video, we will go through why this game is so special and why survival horror fans should play it. Now, with all that being said, let's get right into it. In Cronos The New Dawn, you are fighting against infected, which are called orphans. They don't seem like anything we haven't seen before, but where they stand out from other enemies in the similar genre is from the merger mechanic. These bastards will merge with enemy corpses to get stronger and gain new abilities, and preventing them from merging is an absolute necessity and an essential part of the combat loop. Because merged enemies are a real pain. Even on the default difficulty, they cannot be underestimated. Letting one orphan merge twice is even worse, and it's basically suicide since you'll end up depleting nearly all your resources on them. This pushes players to make conscious decisions during combat and carefully plan. Thankfully, the game gives you a variety of options to survive this post-apocalyptic world. A great tool you'll be introduced to early on is torch fuel. This resource is essential as it will be practical for your journey. Torch fuel can be used to burn corpses on the ground, eliminating any merging opportunities caught in its radius. It can also be used to stun enemies in place, making them more vulnerable to incoming damage. And it can save your ass last second as it gives you precious iframes. Unfortunately, this is a consumable item, so you'll have to use them sparingly. There is also an alternative. Later you'll find pyres which work similarly to torch fuels, except it functions as a throwable item and explodes when enemies get near it. When it comes to your firearms, the game teaches you how essential it is to charge your shots as your starting pistol's basic fire is incredibly weak, which encourages charging your shots and carefully aim the limbs you want to target. Despite it being a strong option, it gives enemies the opportunity to get really close at times. You do eventually get a powerful automatic pistol that counters that problem, but I still chose to stick with the original. The combination of the damage potential paired up with its outstanding sound effects made it too satisfying for me to pass it on. Both variations of the shotgun were also fun to use, with the basic one having a devastating charge shot and the double-barreled one having 2 shots fired in quick succession. I honestly can't decide which is better. They're just so good. Also, both automatic rifles were very good and useful in balancing the ammo economy. But the real standout weapon must be the Arbalist. This BFG-like weapon that does a huge amount of damage and can take lines of enemies in one caliber. Funnily enough, I kept selling it to ammunition because my dumbass confused it for being a valuable item that could be sold. So, here's what combat in Cronos looks like. You start the encounter by blowing up this barrel, giving you a small breather on what to do next. You take out enemies with precise headshots, or target their legs so that you can stomp on them instead of wasting precious ammo. Then you see an orphan trying to merge with a corpse, so you interrupt that with a torch fuel which will also burn the corpses on the ground. As the enemies are now held in place by the fire, you take the opportunity to take them out with a shotgun. So as you can see, Cronos encourages a very aggressive playstyle that requires learning how to take enemies out quickly, because a more defensive way of playing is often an open invitation for enemies to merge and gang up on you. Another important part of Cronos' gameplay loop is the crafting system. Thanks to its inclusion, you will be able to craft various resources and plan ahead. You will be collecting chemicals and metal scraps to craft items, but it still makes you choose between them since some require the same crafting materials. For example, you'll often have to pick between crafting shotgun shells, torch fuels, or pyres since they each share 3 metal scraps. Plus, the shotgun shells need 2 chemicals as well, so you might miss out on making healing items or handgun bullets. Yet, you might still make that costly decision since shotgun shells can help you out in a rough spot. Also, your inventory space is extremely limited, and it's normal to be constantly out of space since you need every item that you can hold on to. Which again, the game makes you pick on what you want to keep and what you want to let go of. There are even bolt cutters that you find early on into the game, and it is an item that you might want to keep since it can unlock doors. Decisions. This is what I love about Cronos. When it comes to enemies, I believe it would have benefited from having 1 or 2 enemies to be introduced. Despite that, Cronos still manages to bring just enough variety in its roster to grant a nice challenge. You have these headless guys that are pretty weak, but are fast and they sprint at you. You have big guys which are evidently slower, but are more oppressive. Then there are these crawling enemies that I found particularly annoying because they would sneak up on me whenever I lost track of them. One of them jumped me once, and it pissed me off. Finally, you have these creatures that are glued to walls, and I found myself being particularly careful with them. Boss fights were actually pretty good. There are some repeats here and there, like the reskin of the Terror, which adds 1 new ability, but nothing that feels lazily assembled. I love how for the most part, the bosses make you utilize your torch fuels and pyres to give you an advantage. I love when bosses make you use everything you've learned up to that point. My favorite boss was probably Mother Alyssa, as the pressure from the other enemies while trying to manage the boss made the fight really engaging. In Cronos The New Dawn, you will explore many areas, some more open-ended and others that feel like classic Resident Evil locations. You get to explore the steelworks, the abbey, the apartments, the hospital, etc. Each visually stunning, but I'd say the standouts for me were the abbey and the hospital sections. You reach these areas in the late game, where there's an even bigger emphasis on combat, exploration, and even some puzzles here and there. That had me thinking for a little while. On hard mode, I think I must have died 6 to 7 times in these areas, and that's including me reloading to my previous saves. And by that point, I was honestly vibing with the game. I was in the flow of collecting items, unlocking doors, crafting, and beating tough combat encounters. After beating the game twice, I am still considering going for another playthrough. I usually don't do that unless the game has truly captivated me. In the case of Cronos, it absolutely has. That's all I've got to say about Cronos. It is a wonderful game and a great survival horror game at that. The tuning of the resource economy combined with its unique twist on survival horror action makes this game an absolute must-play for fans of the genre. There's truly nothing like it. Many will compare it to Dead Space, which is a fair comparison, but to blandly call it a clone to that game is of poor taste. It is obviously inspired by it, but it still does its own thing. I know I didn't talk about the story, since I really wanted to focus on the gameplay for this video, and I don't think I have much to add to the conversation either way. I would give this game a 9 out of 10. Bloober outdid themselves with this one, and I cannot wait to see what they do next. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe as it would really help out the channel. Also make sure to click notifications on if you don't want to miss more content like this. Now with all of that being said, see you guys later.